Hello and welcome to episode 178 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Of course, I am your host, Rick Doherty. Maz is back on the show this week. You loved our ride tier list for Disney's Animal Kingdom so much that we're back to do the same thing with Disney's Hollywood Studios. There are going to be some very controversial takes here because Hollywood Studios is full of those e-ticket high-weight attractions, and not all of them are maintained with the love and care we traditionally associate with Disney. We're going to be talking Star Wars, Toy Story, Tower of Terror, Muppets, and a whole lot more. As always, feel free to add your opinions in the comments. As long as everyone is remaining respectful, I'm always willing to hear people out when they're trying to convince me something deserves to be higher, or I'm being too lenient on an attraction that isn't up to snuff. Before we get started, my birthday is coming up later this week. I am asking for one simple thing as a present from all of you who listen. Please make sure you are subscribed to the Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty YouTube channel. If you're already subscribed, share some episodes with your friends on social media. Check out some of my vlogs and videos and drop positive comments. Heck, if the 2,000 to 3,000 people who usually view these episodes on YouTube in the first week would all just comment, "Happy birthday, Rick," below this episode, it would bump it up in the algorithm, and that would mean so much to us. While I don't foresee us ever abandoning theme park content, we're looking on branching out to some more aspects of traveling, pop culture, and entertainment. Just this month, I've shared videos that cover photos I took on vacations long before I ever had a YouTube channel, none of which involved theme parks. I am continuing to find hiking trails in Florida and share my experience at various baseball stadiums. History has always been an interest of mine, and I would love to talk a lot more about that, especially as it pertains to travel. All of that combined with all of the theme park content you expect, and I think you are going to want to be a part of what we're doing in the future. Once again, like, comment, and subscribe to the Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty YouTube channel. I also wanted to take a quick second to remind everyone that June 30th is the last day of Alicia Stella's fundraiser for the Trevor Project. Last year, she raised over $25,000 for the organization, and this is certainly a time when our friends in the LGBTQ+ community need us more than they ever have needed us. I have absolutely nothing to do with this fundraiser. Alicia was nice enough to promote the fundraiser on this podcast last year, and she does the absolute best coverage of Epic Universe. Besides that, I'm just promoting it because it is the right thing. Head to give.trevorproject.org/parkstop to donate. That's give.trevorproject.org/parkstop. Now let's welcome Maz back to the show. Thanks for being here, Maz.
Thanks for having me on.
So we are going to return to a very popular game we played a few weeks ago. We did a tier list of rides at Disney's Animal Kingdom, and now we are going to move to Walt Disney World's second youngest theme park, and that is Disney's Hollywood Studios. This is another theme park like Disney's Animal Kingdom, where they don't have a ton of rides. So we're going to make this attractions, and we are going to rank them on a tier of S. That is the absolute best, superb S tier attraction. A, B, C, and F. And as we mentioned before, most stuff is average. That's the definition of average. So if we're putting something in the B tier, we are not insulting it. We are just saying that it is average, which is what most things should be when you're talking about theme park attractions. So let us start with the Beauty and the Beast musical. because I think this is one where we might have the most varied opinions because there's a lot you could say about this one.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this one. My gut instinct is to put it in B or C. Um, and I think I'm going to give it to B just because the people are working so hard. Like, it is real people performing and giving it their all. And, that deserves to be recognized. The show itself, I think, needs some work.
All right, Maz, I'm going to need you to get in a time machine and go back to the 80s, become a teacher in elementary school in the late 80s because your grading is way too generous. And I could have used this.
Performers giving their all.
I hear you. And my reasoning for making this a C has nothing to do with the performers. The performers are amazing. If you get a good bell, chef's kiss. It is an incredible experience. But it is so dated that I just can't give this a B because it feels out of place. It doesn't feel like it belongs, especially with how much new Beauty and the Beast stuff we have gotten in recent years. Now, when we get to the Beauty and the Beast sing-along over at Epcot, that will be an F. But most Beauty and the Beast stuff that we have gotten has been pretty good. Enchanted Tales with Belle. You look at that Beauty and the Beast ride over in Tokyo that is just next level amazing. And this is a show that has been running since Beauty and the Beast was like a new movie. So I think it at least needs an update. If it got an update, I could put it in the A tier. But right now, I think it's sitting at a C tier. I know that you have a special place in your heart for performers in musicals, but I think this has to be a C.
That's fair. You make a lot of great points. No, you're right. And maybe I'm unfairly amused by it because the last time I saw it, the performers were still under like their COVID restrictions, so they couldn't touch or get too close to each other, which honestly made for a really, really entertaining show. Like, it was very fun to watch that happen.
It went from being a French romance to an Irish one where like they were never within 6 feet of each other. It was perfect. I don't know why anybody would have changed that, as a matter of fact. Well, let's move on now, speaking of sing-alongs, to the Frozen sing-along. This is going to be an interesting one because I don't think this exists for us. This exists to get kids into an air-conditioned room for a half hour. They want to see the songs from Frozen. They put together a cute little story. The actors, now I know that the actors don't do quite as much as they used to do, which is a little unfortunate because it used to be really, really funny. And they kind of dialed down the funny a little bit. I'm going to try to be generous to this because I know it's not for me, but I still think this is only a C.
Ooh, we're going to disagree again. This is fun.
There we go.
I have this as a B, and I think it's a solid B. It's always packed. Every time I've done it or walked by it, there have been lines. So it's found its audience. People are consistently showing up for it. Maybe it's because it's not made for me. I went into it with such low expectations, and I was so impressed by, the quality and the story and the way they managed to make Frozen, which we've all been bombarded with, since it was released, feel fresh, was really impressive to me. And I genuinely enjoyed that half hour in the AC watching them perform, and like it got real laughs out of me.
You sold me. I'm okay putting it at B. I think the only reason that I had it at C was because of the changes that they made to it, and I feel like they took it down a notch. But you're probably right. They didn't take it down a whole grade. They just took it down a little bit. So maybe it was an 85 before, but now it's an 80, but it's still a B. Okay.
Right. Went from like a B plus to like a lower B, but like it's still in that range, I think.
This one's going to be hard to judge because if you're going to Hollywood Studios on your honeymoon, you have to do this attraction because it's just so romantic. Inside joke to Maz's cousin Natalie, who was trying to figure out attractions to visit on her honeymoon and mentioned Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy. This is another one of those attractions that is definitely not there for us. So you have to take that into consideration. I'm probably going to surprise you on this one. I think it's a B. And here's why I think it's a B. Because it's a show with an actual animatronic. And a pretty good animatronic. Like the way that they project the mouth onto Lightning McQueen is so much better than the way they project the faces onto the Frozen characters on Frozen Ever After. Like I said, it is not for me. I hardly ever do it. I wouldn't be within a mile of this ride on my honeymoon, Natalie. But I do think that for the kids who absolutely love cars, this gets those kids to a complete area of the park where they never would be, because most of the kids who are Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy age aren't big enough yet to ride Tower of Terror or Rock and Roller Coaster. It gives them little meet and greets with some of the other cars outside. I think it has a good message. I'm going to say B. I think this is a good attraction at Disney's Hollywood Studios.
You know what? You have made a good argument. You've convinced me. I was going to say C, but I will put it in the B. I think that all makes a lot of sense. And like you said, it's not for me, but the audience does seem to enjoy it. And the animatronic is really spectacular. And there are great bathrooms back there. So that's another plus.
Oh, that is a good point. There are good bathrooms back there. And because that is the only attraction in that corner, they are not busy. So, wow, that is a good point. And good bathrooms at Hollywood Studios can be an issue. So, yeah.
Hard to find.
Love it. Love it. I'm going to go to a controversial one now. I don't know what we're going to say, but I think that if we would open this up to the majority of the Disney community, this would be the one that would lead to the most fights. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. There are going to be people who are going to say it's not the great movie ride, so I'm going to hate it no matter what. But we are going to judge this based on its own merits. We're going to try to take off those nostalgia goggles for the great movie ride and actually judge Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Look, the great movie ride had Mary Poppins. All right? So when you talk about target audience for that ride, that's me. And I was sad to lose Mary Poppins in the park. That being said, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, for me, is an A attraction. I think it is so well done. I love the trackless technology. I love that they've been able to update it to a ride that's just an enjoyable, fun ride for people of all ages. You know, little kids can go on it and have fun. Adults can go on it and have fun. It has one of the most earwormiest songs in all of Disney, and it's just plain fun.
The ride that opened the week before the pandemic closures with the song Nothing Can Stop Us Now. But yes, I actually agree with you. I think this is an A attraction. I know people for whom this is their favorite ride at Walt Disney World. We sometimes get enamored with the thrill rides or the rides that have the best technology. But you know what a ride is supposed to be in addition to being thrilling or highly technical? It's supposed to be fun. And this ride's fun. So I 100% agree with you.
They put so much attention into every single one of those scenes. I feel like every time I ride it, you know, depending on what car you're in a different spot in every one of those rooms. I noticed something new. And I've ridden it several times. So to still be like, oh, I never noticed that little detail before is really exciting.
Donald making the hot dog, putting the mustard on the hot dog every time. So funny. Love it. So, speaking of A's, we're going to move over to ASS, Alien Swirling Saucers, over in Toy Story Land. This is one of those that I'm going to have to put myself, in the position that this isn't for me, but that doesn't mean it's automatically great because it's not for me. I think I'm going to have this as a C because they added it to a brand new land. They basically had limitless opportunities. I think while I understand the theming concept that it's Andy's backyard and he's building a fake amusement park, just because there is a theme doesn't mean the theme's not weak. And I think all of those things combine to make Alien Swirling Saucers a C attraction, especially when you consider that even though this is a ride that's supposed to have 10, 15-minute waits, it is often at 25, 35, even 45 minutes for an attraction that should not have waits that long.
Yep. I fully agree on every single count. And like, that's not to say that I don't enjoy it whenever I do it, because I have, and it's been fun or whatever. But it's not one that is a must do. And it's not one that I think earns a more than 10-minute wait. If you wait 40 minutes for that ride, I think you're going to be pretty disappointed.
Now let's cross the walkway, one of Andy's gigantic footprints. Go to another one. I think there was a time that this would be one of the highest rated attractions on all Walt Disney World property. So when we talk about being spoiled, I think we should think this used to be the cream of the crop at Walt Disney World. And now it's a ride a lot of people forget, and that's Toy Story Mania.
Yeah, I love this one. This is an A tier for me. If not bordering on that S, but I think I want to save that for something else. But it is a great ride. It is a lot of fun. There's a good competition angle to it. I like this one because I can actually do it. Calling out Buzz Lightyear here in my own incompetence with it. I don't know what I'm doing on Buzz. Haven't been able to figure it out. Toy Story Mania, I can crush Toy Story Mania. I like the simple competition aspect of it. I think it's something that, you put two people in a cart together and you say, all right, only one of you is going to win. And you're going to get some fun, good-natured ribbing out of that for the rest of your trip. I like to wager a Dole Whip or something on whoever wins.
It's fun unless you're there with Jillian and she won't let you forget it for the rest of the day. One day I will beat her. I agree with A. The technology's good. When you talk about some other 3D attractions and the 3D starts to kind of wear away, this one seems to be standing up all right. The only issue I really have with Toy Story Mania isn't with the ride. It's that when they opened Toy Story Land, they added the different entrance. So now, even if it's a 10-minute wait, you have to walk like 10 minutes in the queue until you get, like, even if you have a lightning lane, you're walking 10 minutes in the queue for this one because it just wasn't built to have the entrance be where the entrance is located right now. But that is a nitpicky problem. I am not going to give it a lower grade because of that. I think A is the perfect level. Let's just clean up Toy Story Land right now. Slinky Dog Dash. I think we can probably agree that the only problem with Slinky Dog Dash is that it's a worse attraction during the day. The line is incredibly long during the day. And Toy Story Land is the hottest place on the planet. So if there's anything against this ride, it's those factors. Now, I don't know if that's enough to drop it from the A tier, but I'm going to want to hear your thoughts.
I don't think it is. I think the ride itself makes up for it. I think that the lack of shade is a Toy Story Land problem on the whole, so I don't want to hold it too much against Slinky Dog. And it is such a good nighttime ride, and like that's part of it, right? I mean, if you're riding that ride, you can always go at night and still have just this top tier experience. And I think that during the day, it's still a lot of fun, still a great ride. I think it deserves an A spot.
Rock and Roller Coaster. We'll move on to the other roller coaster in the park, which is probably going to get a retheme soon. D23 Expo. I'm looking at you, August 9th through the 11th. This one's going to be a hard one, I think. So I want to hear your thoughts first. You have ridden this way more than I've ridden it.
Yeah, this is a really tough one because it's a very good ride and I do enjoy it. But I think it needs a little more love than it's gotten recently to keep it running at like its optimal performance. I'm going to put it in the B tier. I think that there are several ways it could be improved. The track could be improved. I think as much as I do enjoy Aerosmith's music, I think that it doesn't really reach a large portion of the audience anymore. But again, like you said before, putting it in the B tier doesn't mean it's a bad ride. It's still a great ride, but it has some detractions that I think take it away from that A spot.
We mentioned on a recent episode that Aerosmith isn't even dad music anymore. Like, we're at the point where that's grandfather music, where I am, let's be honest, old for a Disney adult, and they were the old, like, we made fun of Aerosmith when I was a kid. Now, eventually, we started to think they were cool, but when I was a kid in high school, if you liked Aerosmith, it was nerdy because it was old man rock at that time. Now, retro comes back, and any of the problematic nature of Steven Tyler himself as a person, I think one of the reasons that this should be B tier is A, like we mentioned, just because it's a B tier doesn't mean we're saying it's bad. We're just saying it's average. B, it's another one of those rides that has a long wait a lot of the time. So if you are putting up a long wait, you have to justify that, and I will take that out of the quality of the experience. Like, we had to justify keeping Slinky Dog at an A because of how long the wait can be for that. And I think you have to take that into consideration for something like Rock and Roller Coaster as well.
That's fair.
Star Tours. This is so hard. This is so hard.
Oh, this is tough.
This is a ride where the experience can be different. You can have a better experience one ride, the next ride, maybe you get different scenes that aren't quite as entertaining. It can make you a little sick to your stomach. However, to counteract what we were saying about Rock and Roller Coaster, this now almost never has a wait. This is a walk-on a lot of the time, and I would say the only consistent walk-on in Hollywood studios. But I still think I'm going to give it a B.
Yeah, I think even B is being a little generous sometimes. I'll give it a B, but I think it's a low B. And again, not that it's a bad ride. I just think that the experience is so varied. Even though you don't really have to wait, you also can get on and be like, well, that was kind of a waste of, 15 minutes because it wasn't really a good ride. Or it's one of the rides that comes up the most when people talk about getting motion sick in the parks. That takes away from it a little bit. You're kind of developing a ride that a lot of people have an issue with, and it maybe doesn't have enough of a wow factor to counteract it, like something like Guardians might, where people get motion sickness on that, but the wow factor is so incredible, it still weighs in the ride's favor. With Star Tours, I don't know if there's enough justification for how jerky and oddly moving the ride can be sometimes. I think a low B is where it sits.
I know that Universal is taking 3D out of some of their rides, like Kong Skull Island. They've eliminated the 3D factor, which for that one I think is dumb. But I think for Star Tours, it might be a good idea because it didn't used to be 3D and nobody ever got sick on it. I think if they would drop that to not being 3D, it would actually be a benefit. I might be in the minority there, but I definitely agree that this one is fighting for that B status. And if it wasn't for the fact that it's almost always a walk-on, I probably would have it at a C.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And also, taking 3D off that ride is such a good idea. I feel like they should do it.
Because I never get sick on Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run, which is where we will move now. That does not have 3D, but unlike Star Tours, it sticks to the same stinking script every time. I know there are a lot of people who complain about, oh, if a kid is the pilot, then it ruins it, and should we make it so that kids can't be pilots? I think the only thing that I might say is maybe there should be a way you can opt to go to the next car if a kid's a pilot. But either way, sometimes you can be surprised and the kid's actually pretty doggone good because that kid came out of the womb playing video games. This is one of those attractions that drops so fast for me. When it first opened and it's like, you're piloting the Millennium Falcon. This is amazing. And the first time you go punch it, Chewie, and you pull back on the lever, and it was amazing. And then the second time you did it, it was okay. And then by the third time you did it, you were like, I can skip this now. And I just never do it anymore. I'm going to be a little controversial. I'm going to say C.
Listen, it may be controversial, but I'm right there with you. I think it's a C list. I also, it's not a must ride for me. I pretty much rarely do it. I only ever do it if someone I'm with wants to do it. I really, really think it was such a misstep not including other missions. There's that whole secret Chewie mode you can unlock, but you have to have everyone in the car doing the exact same thing, and you really have to have a group of 6 to make that happen, which isn't the experience of most park goers, I don't think. So I think putting a couple more different runs in the mix of things would be a big improvement.
And when we do a tier list for Epcot, we're not going to judge Spaceship Earth based on how beautiful Spaceship Earth is when you walk into the park. We're not going to say, oh, it's so photogenic. When we move on to Tower of Terror here, we're not going to talk about that either. Yes, you get to see the Millennium Falcon, and that's one of the coolest parts of Galaxy's Edge, but that's not this ride. I just can't justify putting it any higher.
Yeah, which, okay, I can hear the boos and jeers, but I think sometimes walking around Galaxy's Edge, seeing the Millennium Falcon and seeing Chewie doing some maintenance work on it is more entertaining than riding Smugglers Run, which is not what it should be for a ride that was so hyped up.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you just said. That was perfect. The fact that we have the Millennium Falcon there is why I like Smugglers Run more than the ride itself. Now, it does have single rider, and single rider's great, but if you do single rider, your odds of being a pilot are very, very slim. And this is another one of those attractions like Soarin', where your position in the ride vehicle is way too determinative of your enjoyment levels. So, yeah, solid C.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Maz will be back in a few weeks to finish this tier list from Disney's Hollywood Studios. I promise you that our most debatable takes have yet to be shared. Maz and I have also already set aside time to get together immediately after the D23 Expo announcements on August 11th, and we will be sharing our thoughts on all of the announcements regarding the U.S. Disney parks. Let's be honest, we probably will have 3 episodes to cover Walt Disney World alone. Last week also marked 1 month of the new Disability Access Pass system at Walt Disney World. I know I had said in a previous episode that I wouldn't address the awful rollout of this system until Disney had time to fix it. Well, they've had some time, so expect a lot of talk about that in the near future as well. This has been episode 178 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe at our YouTube channel. Next Thursday is the 4th of July, but this podcast doesn't take any holidays. we will power on through with another brand new episode, and it will definitely have an American theme. Until then, have a great week.